Today's list is about dark fantasy. Different years, different directors, but every film here is worth watching if you're not afraid to come face to face with fear and despair. Let's not save the best for the end of the list. Pan's Labyrinth is often called the greatest dark fantasy film ever made, and it's hard to argue with that. Set in post-Civil War Spain in 1944, the film follows a young girl named Ophelia, who is forced to live with her brutal stepfather, a military captain. Trying to escape her reality, she encounters a mysterious faun who draws her into a dangerous and unsettling quest, one that may or may not be real. Directed by Guillermo del Toro, the film shows just how deeply he understands dark fantasy. It places a troubled child at the center of a harsh Gothic world, where fear and imagination take physical form. The faun and the pale man are unforgettable, not just as creatures, but as extensions of Ophelia's inner world, brought to life through striking practical effects. The film was a major success for a foreign language release, earning strong box office results and widespread critical acclaim, including multiple Academy Award wins. You could easily build an entire list just from Tim Burton's films alone. His take on fantasy is instantly recognizable, but for now, let's stop at Sleepy Hollow. Released in 1999, the film may feel slightly overlooked today, but at the time it was a solid success, well-received, backed by strong box office numbers, and recognized by the Academy. Based on the legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, the story follows Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, a New York constable sent to a remote village to investigate a series of brutal decapitations linked to the Headless Horseman. The Gothic setting is packed with eerie, haunted imagery and memorable set pieces. The supernatural horror is driven by the intimidating presence of the Headless Horseman himself, while Burton's dark humor keeps the atmosphere tense and uneasy rather than playful. It is everything a dark fantasy should be. Directed by Alex Proyas and based on the comic by James O'Barr, the story follows Eric Draven, a musician murdered alongside his fiancée during a night of unchecked violence known as Devil's Night. 1 year later, he returns from the dead, guided by a crow, to track down those responsible. The Crow has strong action sequences, clear Gothic set design, striking cinematography, and a distinctive soundtrack. Unfortunately, the film's legacy is inseparable from the on-set death of Brandon Lee, who was fatally injured just days before filming was completed. The remaining scenes were finished using careful editing and visual effects, and that tragedy hangs heavily over the finished film. Sequels followed, as they usually do, but none of them ever really worked. A Monster Calls is one of those films that feels like it slipped past a lot of people when it came out. The story follows Connor, a young boy dealing with his mother's terminal illness, a strict grandmother, an absent father, and constant bullying at school. Every night at the same time, a giant tree monster appears outside his window. It promises to tell Connor 3 stories, but demands a 4th in return: Connor's own truth. The role asks a lot from a young actor, and Lewis McDougall holds the film together, with strong support from Sigourney Weaver as the grandmother and Felicity Jones as his mother. The monster itself is voiced by Liam Neeson. This is a seriously themed film that sits well above any idea of light entertainment. There's real magic here. The animated sequences stand out, and it builds slowly, but it really hits you. Labyrinth is a cult classic. It centers on a teenage girl named Sarah, played by a 16-year-old Jennifer Connelly, who is pulled into a strange, fantastical world and forced to navigate a maze to rescue her baby brother. Standing in her way is the Goblin King, played by David Bowie. A young child in danger, a maze filled with otherworldly creatures, and an intimidating setting. And aside from Bowie and Connolly, almost every on-screen being is a puppet. All of this creates an exceptionally dark film, with several sinister undertones and unsettling narrative implications. Upon release, Labyrinth drew criticism for its depiction of violence and sexuality. One reviewer pointed out that putting a baby in constant danger is one of the cheapest ways a film can grab attention, and that director Jim Henson knowingly leans into it here. Whether you agree or not, Labyrinth remains one of the strongest fantasy films of its era. Night Watch is set in modern Moscow, where a centuries-old truce between light and dark allows vampires, witches, and other supernatural beings to live hidden among ordinary people. That fragile balance is enforced by two opposing groups, the Night Watch and the Day Watch, each keeping a close eye on the other to make sure the rules aren't broken. According to prophecy, this balance won't last forever. A powerful figure known as the Great Other is said to eventually choose a side, bringing the long conflict to an end once and for all. The film drops you straight into this world without much explanation, letting its rules and tensions unfold as it goes. If you're tired of fantasy films that all feel the same, this is your movie. Here we're back to Guillermo del Toro. The Shape of Water is set in 1962 and follows Elisa, a mute janitor working at a secret government research facility. She's isolated, largely invisible to the people around her, and one day discovers an amphibian creature being held captive and experimented on, and unexpectedly falls in love with it. While the film has moments of humor, it treats this relationship seriously and makes you care about it, no matter how strange it might seem at first. Through it, the film gets to its main idea, the emptiness people carry inside and the ways they try to fill it. The Green Knight is a dark fantasy retelling of an old Arthurian legend. Directed by David Lowery, the film follows Sir Gawain, played by Dev Patel. Gawain isn't a classic hero. He's inexperienced, fearful, and driven more by pride than courage. When the Green Knight appears and issues his challenge, Gawain agrees, and that choice sends him on a grim journey filled with strange encounters, moral tests, and constant reminders of his own weakness. The visuals are striking, the music is cold and unsettling, and the sound design creates a heavy, almost oppressive atmosphere. Everything works together cleanly, without excess. It's a confident, focused retelling that doesn't have obvious weak spots, and it deserves more attention than it got.